And by the way, if you Jokic, let's understand the level of frustration. This is a guy that averaged over 35 on better than 65% shooting and 38% from three-point range in the regular season. He's been shooting 15% from three over the last 2 games. He has been a shell of himself. He is not 100%. We know that. So that part of that is killing him. That Jokic can't be Jokic.
All season long, the Western Conference talk stayed locked on 2 squads, OKC stacking 64 wins and San Antonio right behind with 62 thanks to Wemby going crazy. Meanwhile, Denver sat quietly in 5th place and nobody even blinked. They moved on from MPJ, let go of their championship coach, and even lost Jokic for a stretch with that knee issue back in December. To most people, it looked like the window was shutting fast. Denver went on a 12-game tear to close the season, something only 2 other teams have done in the last 75 years. They jumped from 5th to 3rd just like that. Jokic, he casually dropped another triple-double average like it was nothing. Murray finally got his all-star nod, and suddenly, that team everybody doubted turned into the one nobody wants to see in a playoff series. But if you really want to understand why this version of Denver feels different, like something bigger is brewing, you've got to rewind to the moment everything exploded. With just 3 games left in the regular season, Denver made a shocking move that had everybody talking. Michael Malone, gone. Calvin Booth, gone too. Just like that. The coach who brought them a title in 2023 and the GM who built the whole system around Jokic were out the door. 2 years after winning it all, they tore down the entire power structure without hesitation. Then David Adelman stepped in, and he didn't just steady things. He turned up the pressure. He pushed Denver all the way to a Game 7 against OKC in the 2nd round. Yeah, the Thunder went on to win it all, but Adelman proved enough to lock in the full-time job. Now Jokic's prime sits in the hands of a rookie head coach and a completely fresh front office, and they still weren't finished making bold moves. Day 1 of free agency, boom, Michael Porter Jr. was out of there. Then came the move that really shook everything up. Denver sent out an unprotected 2032 first-round pick to Brooklyn to land Cameron Johnson, and fans were split right down the middle. MPJ had been huge in that 2023 title run, easily one of the most gifted scorers on the roster outside of Jokic and Murray. But the truth, he came with a heavy price tag, constant injury concerns, and streaky performances that made the front office nervous. And Porter himself basically saw it coming. Back in November, he said it straight up. If we don't win it this year, we all know they might have to break it up. That wasn't just talk, that was a warning. And Denver followed through exactly like he predicted. Johnson stepped in, putting up 18.8 points per game while shooting 39% from deep. And here's the kicker. He cost $17 million less. Tim Hardaway Jr. joined on a vet minimum, ready to light it up off the bench at any moment. And then came Valanciunas, giving Jokic something he's never really had. A legit, reliable backup big. This wasn't just a small tweak. Denver rebuilt this squad with serious depth. Even The Athletic called it out, saying, "This team has its best chance at a title since 2023. On paper, everything looked perfect, but the real shock? It translated immediately. Denver didn't need time to figure it out. They came out swinging. A franchise-best 17-6 start and the #1 offense in the entire league at 121.0. This wasn't theory anymore. There, it was domination. The new pieces didn't just fit, they elevated everything. And Johnson's spacing, it unlocked driving lanes Denver didn't even have before. Valanciunas brought that tough, physical presence off the bench that Denver had been missing. Bruce Brown came back with that same championship grit, doing all the little things that don't show up in the box score but win games. And Hardaway, he was cooking second units every night, finally giving Denver that instant offense spark they'd been searching for. Adelman had this squad playing loose, fearless, and full of confidence. And the scary part? They were only getting started. Then came Christmas Day 2025, Nuggets versus Timberwolves, primetime on ABC, the whole basketball world locked in watching. And what happened next felt unreal. Nikola Jokic went absolutely nuclear. 56 points, 15 rebounds, and 15 assists in an overtime win. That stat line had never been seen before in NBA history. Not just for Denver, not just in recent years. Ever! Nobody had pulled off a 55-15-15 game until that moment. It wasn't just numbers, it was dominance on a level that made the MVP race feel already decided. You watched that performance and couldn't help but think, this team might actually be unstoppable. And then, just like that, everything flipped again. Only 4 days later, Jokic hyperextended his left knee and the entire momentum came crashing down. He missed the next 16 games, nearly a full month without the best player on the planet. But it didn't stop there. Christian Braun was already sidelined with an ankle sprain, Aaron Gordon went down with a hamstring issue, and Cameron Johnson picked up a brutal knee bone bruise that kept him out for weeks. At one point, Denver was missing 4 starters. That deep, stacked roster suddenly looked thin overnight. Everything they built was being tested all at once. Then finally, January 30th, Jokic returned against the Clippers on Serbian Heritage Night. Even on a minutes restriction, he dropped 31 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists like it was nothing. It should have been the moment that turned everything back around. But things weren't that simple. But here's where things got messy. The Nuggets just couldn't lock back into their rhythm. That same team that looked like the best in the West suddenly started slipping after the All-Star break. They went from chasing the 2nd seed all the way down to 5th. Just like that, the whole narrative flipped against them. People started talking crazy. Denver peaked too early. They can't stay healthy. This team isn't built for a deep run. And honestly, if you check the standings around mid-March, it was hard to argue with any of it. Denver was stuck in 5th, sliding the wrong way, and it felt like the season was falling apart again. But what nobody expected, what nobody saw coming, was what Nikola Jokic and this squad were about to do next. March 18th, 2026. Denver takes a tough loss to Memphis, 125-118. That dropped them to 42-28, sitting 5th in the West, stuck behind the Lakers. No momentum, no room for mistakes. It felt like everything was slipping away again. But what happened next? Nobody saw it coming. From March 21st to April 13th, the Denver Nuggets went on an absolute rampage. 12 straight wins to close the season. And this wasn't some easy stretch against weak teams either. They were taking down real contenders. They beat the Spurs twice. First in a wild 136-134 shootout at home, then handled business on the road in San Antonio 128-118. That's against a 62-win team sitting 2nd in the conference. Then they went straight at OKC, the best team in basketball, and crushed them 127-107 in a 20-point statement win. They didn't stop there. Wins over the Suns on the road, took down the Blazers twice, handled the Warriors, outgunned the Mavericks 142-135 in a high-scoring battle, and even swept the Jazz for good measure. In 5 of those games, Denver dropped 130-plus points. This offense wasn't just hot, it was overwhelming everything in its way. And yeah, Nikola Jokic was doing his thing. But this run belonged just as much to Jamal Murray. This was the season Murray leveled up. No more sidekick talk. He became a full-on co-star. Career highs across the board. 25.4 points and 7.1 assists per game. First-time All-Star. Finalist for Clutch Player of the Year. He wasn't just contributing, he was taking over games. And when the playoffs hit, he backed it all up instantly. Game 1 against Minnesota, Murray dropped 30 points and went a perfect 16 for 16 from the free throw line, finishing with a team best plus 13. That's not a second option, that's a superstar stepping into the spotlight. But somehow, the wildest part of this entire run still comes back to Nikola Jokic. 27.7 points, 12.9 rebounds, 10.7 assists, another triple-double average for Nikola Jokic. That's back-to-back seasons doing something most players can't even dream of. And it gets crazier. He became the first player since Wilt Chamberlain in 1968 to lead the entire league in both rebounds and assists in the same year. Then add this on top. Jokic hit 198 career triple-doubles, passing Oscar Robertson for 2nd all-time. The only name ahead of him now, Russell Westbrook. That's the level he's operating on right now, and the accolades keep stacking up. He's an MVP finalist for the 6th straight year, chasing his 4th trophy, a number that would put him right next to legends like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Jordan. That's all-time greatness territory. April 6th against Portland, Jokic went insane again. 35 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists, and 5 steals in overtime. Only the 2nd time anyone has ever dropped that stat line since steals started being tracked back in 1973. That's not normal, that's historic. That 12-game win streak didn't just look good. It completely flipped Denver's season. They jumped from 5th all the way to 3rd, past the Lakers, and avoided the play-in entirely. Only 3 teams in the last 75 years have entered the playoffs on a streak that long. The 1973 Bucks, the 2018 Sixers, and now the 2026 Nuggets. So now you see what's really going on here. This isn't just a team getting hot at the right time. This is a squad that got hit from every angle: trades, injuries, doubt, and still rebuilt itself into something even more dangerous. That's exactly why the rest of the league should be worried. So what actually makes this Nuggets team so scary? It's deeper than just wins and momentum. This comes down to how they're built, and it starts with one of the most impossible actions to stop in basketball: the Jokic-Murray pick and roll. For years, defenses thought they could slow things down by loading up on Nikola Jokic, but that strategy, it's not holding up anymore. For years, the blueprint against Nikola Jokic was simple: send the double, force the ball out of his hands, and dare someone else to beat you. But that plan? It's falling apart right in front of everyone. Because now you've got Jamal Murray playing at an all-star level every single night. You double Jokic, Murray is dropping 25 like it's nothing. You stay locked on Murray, Jokic slices the defense up with 11 assists before you can even react. Pick your poison. Either way, you're getting burned. Game 1 against Minnesota said it all. Jokic casually put up a triple-double: 25 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, while Murray went right beside him with 30 points. When both of them get rolling at the same time, it's over. There is no defensive scheme in the league that can stop that combo. None. But here's where this team really separates itself. The depth is on another level. Aaron Gordon is putting up 16.2 points per game while locking things down defensively and doing all the dirty work next to Jokic. Cameron Johnson caught fire late, shooting 43% from 3 over his final stretch. That's elite spacing Denver never truly had before. Christian Braun has grown into a legit two-way starter, impacting both ends of the floor every night. And off the bench, that's where things get scary. Tim Hardaway Jr. turned into a 6th Man of the Year finalist, bringing instant buckets the second he checks in. Bruce Brown came back with that championship chemistry, the kind of player who just knows how to win next to Jokic because he's already done it before. And Jonas Valanciunas, he solved a massive problem, finally giving Denver a backup center who can hold it down without everything falling apart when Jokic rests. The 2023 championship squad was elite, no question. But this group, it might be even deeper. And then there's the experience, and that might be the biggest edge of all. Jokic, Murray, and Gordon have been through 3 straight deep playoff runs together. This isn't new territory for them, and this matchup with Minnesota, it's basically a rivalry at this point. 3rd time meeting in 4 postseasons. These teams know each other inside out. Every play, every adjustment, every weakness. Since the 2022-23 season, the head-to-head battle sits at 15-14 in Denver's favor. Basically dead even, which means this isn't just talent versus talent anymore. This is war between 2 teams that know exactly what's coming. This isn't just another playoff matchup, this is a full-on rivalry now. And David Adelman already proved he can handle the pressure, taking Denver to a Game 7 battle against OKC last year. He's not walking into this blind, he's been through the fire already. Then you look at the intangibles, and it gets even scarier. 3 different Nuggets are sitting as award finalists: Nikola Jokic in the MVP and Tim Hardaway Jr. in the 6th man conversation. That's not just hype, that's a roster full of players with something to prove. And don't forget where they were just a few weeks ago. 5th place in March, completely overlooked. Nobody was talking about Denver like a real threat. That kind of disrespect, it sticks with a team. That chip on their shoulder is real, and you can see it in how they're playing right now. Now let's address the big question. What about OKC and San Antonio? Yeah, OKC won 64 games. Yeah, the Spurs hit 62. But guess what? Denver ran through both of them during that 12-game streak. They didn't just beat OKC, they blew them out by 20. And the Spurs swept them in back-to-back games. That's not luck, that's a statement. The Nuggets might not have the best record on paper, but they might have the best team, and in the playoffs, that's all that matters. Think about everything they've gone through. 3 years ago, they shocked the world and brought a title to Denver. Since then, lost their coach, lost their GM, moved key pieces, dealt with injuries, even lost Nikola Jokic for a full month. And somehow, they came out of all that looking even more dangerous. Now Jokic is chasing history again. If he wins his 4th MVP, he joins legends like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Bill Russell, and Wilt Chamberlain. That's it. That's the list. A 3-time MVP, already a champion, putting up back-to-back triple-double seasons, something only Oscar Robertson and Russell Westbrook have ever done. At 30 years old, he might be playing the best basketball of his career. And somehow, people still aren't talking about it loud enough. At the end of the day, where does this Nuggets squad rank among the best teams of the Jokic era? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're rocking with this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe and stay locked in for more.